The Great Hall of Centauri Prime stretched high into the crystal sky. 47 different species sat in their special seats, each designed for their unique bodies. The ethereals floated in their energy bubbles. The rock-like crystalline beings sat on stone platforms. The tall, thin Dominion members stood at their high podiums. Today was a special day. The Galactic Council was voting on something important. Ambassador Zethkari stood up at his speaking platform. His 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction as he looked around the room. "Fellow council members," Zethkari began, his voice carrying through the translation devices. "Today, we vote on Resolution 2847. This resolution will move humanity from full council membership to observer status only." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. The humans had been council members for only 50 years. Many species here had been members for thousands of years. Elena Vasquez sat in the human section. She was 45 years old, with gray starting to show in her brown hair. As Earth's ambassador, she had fought for human interests for 10 years. Now she listened to the council explain why her people were not good enough. "Humans are too young," said Counselor Veltar from the Science Directorate. "They have been in space for less than 200 years. We have been traveling the stars for millennia. They are too violent," added Fleet Admiral Torgotha. "Every problem they face, they want to fight it. They do not think before they act." The ethereal representative spoke next. Their voice was like wind through crystal. "Humans are ruled by emotions. They make decisions based on feelings, not logic. This is dangerous for council operations." Zethkari nodded at each speaker. "The evidence is clear. Humans take jobs that other species refuse. They volunteer for missions that have no chance of success. They ignore safety protocols. They risk their lives for strangers." Other council members began to speak. Each one had similar complaints about humanity. "They modify our equipment without permission," said a merchant guild representative. "They change mining operations to be more efficient. But they never ask first." "Human patrol ships appear in strange places," said another military officer. "They are supposed to follow assigned routes, but they show up wherever there is trouble." "Human doctors use treatments we do not understand," added a medical director. "They save patients we have given up on, but they cannot explain how they do it." Elena listened to every word. Her face showed no emotion. She had heard these complaints before. The council saw human behavior as chaotic and dangerous. They did not see the results humanity achieved. The voting began. One by one, each species cast their vote. The Dominion voted yes. The ethereals voted yes. The crystalline hegemony voted yes. The pattern continued around the room. "The trade guilds vote yes," announced their representative. "Humans disrupt established trade routes. They find new paths through dangerous space that should not exist." "The Science Directorate votes yes," said Veltar. "Human researchers ignore safety guidelines. They enter radiation zones and toxic atmospheres with minimal protection." 2. "The military command votes yes," declared Torgotha. "Human tactics are unpredictable. They do not follow standard battle procedures." Elena kept count in her head. 30 votes in favor, 10 abstentions, only 6 votes against the resolution. The decision was clear. Zethkari stood up again. "The vote is complete. Resolution 2847 passes with overwhelming support. Humanity is hereby reduced to observer status in the Galactic Council." The hall erupted in polite applause. Many species seemed relieved. Finally, they could run the galaxy without human interference. "Ambassador Vasquez," Zethkari called out. "Would the human delegation like to respond to this decision?" All eyes turned to Elena. She had prepared speeches for this moment. She had arguments about human contributions to galactic security. She had statistics about human sacrifice for other species. She had examples of human innovation that had saved millions of lives. Instead, Elena stood up slowly. She looked around the hall at the 46 species that had just rejected humanity. Her expression remained calm and neutral. She nodded once, then she walked out. The human delegation followed her. 23 humans left the Great Hall in complete silence. They did not argue. They did not protest. They did not make threats. The council members barely noticed their departure. They were already discussing the next item on their agenda: trade regulations between the Outer Rim and the core worlds. Much more important than dealing with emotional humans. Within an hour, Elena reached the human embassy. She walked to her private office and activated the quantum communicator. The device connected directly to Earth's government center. "This is Ambassador Vasquez," she said into the communicator. "Resolution 2847 has passed. Humanity has been reduced to observer status." "Understood," came the reply from Earth. "Are you implementing Protocol Exodus?" Elena looked out the window at the crystal spires of Centauri Prime. Beautiful architecture built by species that valued perfection and order above all else. She thought about the humans who had died protecting these perfect cities. She thought about the human engineers who had improved alien technology. She thought about the human doctors who had saved alien lives. "Yes," Elena said. "Implement Protocol Exodus immediately." "Confirmed. All human personnel will receive the activation code within the hour." Elena ended the communication and opened her personal files. She began typing her final report as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. "The Council has made its decision," she wrote. "They view human qualities as flaws rather than strengths. They see our willingness to take risks as dangerous. They see our emotional decision-making as primitive. They see our tendency to help others as disruptive." She paused and looked around her office. Pictures of successful human-alien cooperation covered the walls. Joint missions that had saved entire star systems. Research projects that had led to medical breakthroughs. Trade agreements that had brought prosperity to frontier worlds. All of it dismissed as the work of primitive, emotional creatures. Elena continued typing. "Since the Council no longer values human participation, humanity will honor their decision. We will remove ourselves from all Council operations and territories." She finished the report and sealed it for transmission to Earth. Then she activated her personal communicator and sent a simple message to every human in Council space. The message contained only 2 words: Protocol Exodus. Across the galaxy, humans began to pack. Dr. Sarah Chen looked at her laboratory one last time. For 15 years, she had worked at the Kepler Research Station, studying quantum mechanics with alien scientists. Her human insights had led to 3 major breakthroughs in faster-than-light communication. Her alien colleagues thought humans were too impatient for real science. They said humans jumped to conclusions without proper analysis. What they did not understand was that human intuition often found solutions that pure logic missed. Sarah finished downloading her personal research files. She encrypted everything with human codes that would take other species years to break. Then she began the shutdown procedure for all her equipment. Dr. Chen called Dr. Kethmore, her crystalline colleague. "Why are you shutting down your experiments?" "We have 3 more days of testing scheduled. I am leaving," Sarah said simply. "Leaving? But the project is not complete. We need your quantum resonance data." Sarah handed him a datapad. "All my results are recorded there. You can continue the work without me." Dr. Kethmore studied the datapad with confusion. "But these equations, they do not follow standard quantum theory. How did you derive these formulas?" "Intuition," Sarah replied. She packed her personal items in a small bag. 15 years of work fit into one carrying case. Everything else belonged to the station. As Sarah walked toward the transport bay, other human researchers were doing the same thing. Dr. James Park, from the Terraforming Division. Engineer Lisa Rodriguez from the Power Systems Department. Medical Officer Dr. Michael Thompson from the Health Center. All of them moved with calm efficiency. No anger, no protests. They simply left. Commander Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Harmony. For 8 years, he had served alongside alien crew members, protecting trade routes from pirates and raiders. His ship had the highest success rate in the fleet. "Commander," said his Dominion's second officer, "we are receiving strange signals from Earth. Are humans being recalled?" Marcus checked his personal communicator. The message was brief. Protocol Exodus. He had hoped he would never see those words. "Yes," Marcus said. "All human personnel are being transferred. But we have patrol duty in the Outer Rim next week. The Kresh pirates have been active in that sector. We need human crews for that mission." 1. The 7th, Marcus began entering commands into the ship's computer. He was transferring all tactical data to the alien crew members. 8 years of patrol routes, pirate behavior patterns, and defense strategies. "This data contains everything you need," Marcus said. "My tactical files, security codes, and operational procedures." The Dominion officer looked confused. "But Commander, we do not understand your patrol methods. You never follow standard routes. How do you always know where the pirates will attack?" Marcus thought about how to explain it. Humans had developed an instinct for criminal behavior. They could sense when something was wrong. They noticed details that advanced sensors missed. "Experience," was all he said. Across the ship, human crew members gathered their belongings. Navigation Officer Chen, Weapons Specialist Garcia, Chief Engineer Patel. They all received the same message. They all prepared to leave. On New Geneva, Engineer James Park supervised the atmospheric processors that kept the colony's air breathable. The planet had a toxic atmosphere that would kill most species within minutes. James had modified the processors to be more efficient and more reliable. His alien supervisor approached him with concern. "Engineer Park, I am receiving reports that you are requesting transfer off-planet. Is there a problem with the atmospheric systems?" "No problem," James said. "The systems are running perfectly. Then why are you leaving?" "We need human engineers for the processors. Only humans understand how to maintain the modifications you made." James handed him a technical manual. "Everything is documented here. The procedures, the maintenance schedules, the emergency protocols." The alien supervisor opened the manual and frowned. "These modifications, they are not in the standard engineering database. How do these improvements work?" "Trial and error," James said. What he did not mention was that humans had a talent for fixing things that should not work. They could jury-rig solutions with spare parts and determination. They could make failing systems run better than when they were new. The alien supervisor would discover this soon enough. Dr. Amanda Foster worked in the xenobiology lab on Titan Station. She studied alien diseases and developed treatments that saved lives across dozens of species. Her methods were unorthodox but effective. "Dr. Foster," said Chief Medical Officer Velgoth, "you cannot leave now. We have 17 patients in critical condition. They need your specialized treatments." Amanda transferred all her patient files to the alien medical staff. "I have documented every procedure. The treatment protocols are all recorded. But Dr. Foster, we do not understand how your treatments work. You use combinations of medicines that should not be effective together. You perform surgeries in ways that contradict medical theory." Amanda thought about the truth. Human doctors were willing to try impossible solutions when conventional medicine failed. They took risks that other species would never consider. Sometimes those risks saved lives that would otherwise be lost. "Instinct," she said. Throughout Council space, the pattern repeated. Human merchants closed their businesses and transferred assets to predetermined accounts. Human explorers uploaded their star charts and navigation data to Council databases. Human teachers finished their lessons and said goodbye to alien students. None of them explained why they were leaving. None of them argued about the Council's decision. They simply packed their belongings and departed. The efficiency was remarkable. Humans had prepared for this possibility. They had contingency plans, evacuation procedures, and backup systems. Every human knew their role in Protocol Exodus. Transport ships arrived at human settlements to collect evacuees. Cargo vessels loaded human equipment and personal property. Military escorts ensured safe passage to the galaxy's edge. The alien species watched with growing unease. They had expected protests and emotional outbursts. Instead, they saw organized withdrawal that resembled a military operation. "Why are they so calm?" asked Counselor Veltar. "We just demoted their entire species. Should they not be angry?" Ambassador Zethkari was beginning to feel uncomfortable. Perhaps they are in shock. Primitive species often shut down emotionally when faced with superior logic, but privately, Zethkari wondered if the humans were planning something. Their silent departure felt ominous rather than defeated. By the end of the first month, 90% of humans had left Council space. Research stations operated with skeleton crews. Medical facilities struggled to maintain patient care. Manufacturing plants reduced production due to staffing shortages. Council administrators began filing reports about minor operational difficulties, equipment breakdowns that humans would have prevented, system failures that humans would have predicted, supply shortages that humans would have avoided. The reports were dismissed as temporary adjustments. Other species could certainly handle simple maintenance tasks that humans had been performing. The last human transport ship left Council space on a Tuesday. Its transponder signal faded as it entered the dark regions beyond the galactic edge. The galaxy was now free of human interference. And for the first time in 50 years, something felt wrong. 6 months after the humans left, Station Master Thekvar stood in the control room of Mining Station Beta 7, staring at a wall of red warning lights. The automated mining equipment was failing at an alarming rate. "How many extractors are down?" he asked his assistant. 37% of all units," replied Maintenance Chief Keldar. "The breakdown rate has increased by 400% since the human engineers left." Thekvar examined the maintenance logs on his screen. The equipment was not old or damaged. The machines simply stopped working properly. One by one. "What about the human modification manuals?" Thekvar asked. "Did they not leave instructions?" Keldar pulled up the technical documents. Pages of human engineering notes filled the screen. "They left detailed instructions, but we cannot understand most of it. They write things like, adjust resonance by feel, and calibrate until it sounds right." "Sounds right?" Thekvar was confused. "These are precision instruments. They do not make sounds." "That is what we thought," Keldar said. "But when we follow the exact specifications, the machines break down within days. When the humans worked here, the same equipment ran for months without problems." Across the Outer Rim, similar problems appeared at 17 different mining operations. Production dropped by 30%. Equipment that had run perfectly under human supervision began failing regularly. The Merchant Guild received increasingly urgent reports from their trade supervisors. Captain Morgoth of the cargo vessel Prosperity sat in his ship's navigation room, studying star charts with growing frustration. "Computer, calculate the optimal route to the Kepler system," he commanded. "Calculating," the computer replied. "Recommended route requires 47 days travel time through standard shipping lanes." Captain Morgoth frowned. "What about the route through the Crimson Nebula? That should cut the time to 18 days. "Warning," the computer responded. "The Crimson Nebula contains unstable plasma fields and unpredictable gravitational anomalies. Risk of ship loss is calculated at 86%, but human ships used that route regularly." Morgoth protested. "They made the trip in 15 days with no problems. Human navigation methods are not in the database," the computer said. "No safe passage data available." Morgoth tried to contact other Merchant Guild captains. The answers were all the same. Trade routes that humans had established through dangerous space were becoming impossible to navigate. Delivery times were doubling and tripling as ships took longer, safer paths. Cargo losses mounted as captains tried to use the shortcuts that humans had pioneered. 3 ships disappeared in the void storms of Sector 9. 2 more were lost in the quantum storms near the galactic core. These were routes that human pilots had navigated safely for decades. The Guild's profits dropped by 60% in 6 months. Ambassador Zethkari received a priority message from Frontier Command. General Korthak's 4-armed form filled the communications screen. His expression grim. "Ambassador," the general said, "we have a serious security problem in the Outer Rim territories." "What kind of problem?" Zethkari asked. The Kresh pirates have launched 17 successful raids in the past 4 months. Our response time to distress calls has increased dramatically. Zethkari studied the tactical reports. But we have more security ships than ever. How are the pirates succeeding? General Korthak highlighted several star systems on the tactical map. The problem is patrol efficiency. Our ships follow assigned routes and schedules. The pirates have learned our patterns. What about random patrol algorithms? Zethkari suggested. Surely our computers can generate unpredictable security sweeps. We tried that, the general said. Random patrols cover too much empty space and miss the areas where attacks actually occur. The pirates strike at shipping lanes and colonies that our algorithms consider low-priority targets. Zethkari remembered something troubling. What about human patrol records? They had very high success rates. General Korthak brought up the archived data. Human patrols were completely illogical. They ignored assigned routes and appeared in random locations throughout their sectors. According to their own reports, they patrolled based on hunches and gut feelings. That sounds primitive and inefficient, Zethkari said. Yes, the general agreed. But somehow, human patrols intercepted 73% of pirate raids. Our current interception rate is 12%. The security crisis was spreading. Pirates who had been contained for decades began expanding their operations. They attacked settlements that had been safe for generations. Trade convoys that had never needed escorts suddenly required military protection. Dr. Veltar of the Science Directorate discovered another disturbing pattern. She stood in her laboratory, reviewing research data from the past 6 months. Computer, analyze the productivity rates of all research stations since human departure, she commanded. Analysis complete, the computer replied. Research productivity has declined by 43% across all scientific disciplines. Dr. Veltar was puzzled. But we have more resources than before. We no longer need to support human research projects. Correct, the computer said. However, breakthrough discoveries have decreased by 78%. Innovation rates are at historic lows. Close. Dr. Veltar examined specific research projects. Advanced physics studies had stalled completely. Medical research was producing incremental improvements instead of major breakthroughs. Engineering projects were safer but less effective. Computer. What was the human contribution to scientific advancement? She asked. The computer processed the request for several minutes. Human researchers were responsible for 67% of major scientific breakthroughs during their council membership. They specialized in high-risk, unconventional research approaches. High-risk approaches, Dr. Veltar mused. We eliminated those for safety reasons. Affirmative, the computer said. Current research follows all safety protocols. Failure rates have decreased by 90%. And success rates? Success rates have decreased by 85%. Dr. Veltar realized the problem. Other species conducted research methodically. Following established procedures and proven theories, humans took wild chances, tested impossible ideas, and failed spectacularly most of the time. But when they succeeded, they changed everything. Medical stations throughout council space reported similar patterns. Dr. Keshval, chief medical officer at Central Hospital, reviewed patient mortality statistics with growing alarm. The death rate has increased by 23%, she told her staff. We are losing patients that human doctors would have saved. But our procedures are more standardized now, pointed out Dr. Mordan. We follow established protocols without deviation. That is the problem, Dr. Keshval said. Human doctors tried experimental treatments on terminal patients. They took risks that violated medical ethics guidelines. Surely that was dangerous, Dr. Mordan protested. Yes, Dr. Keshval agreed. Human experimental treatments failed 60% of the time. But when they worked, they saved patients who would have died under standard care. The mathematics were undeniable. Human medicine was dangerous and unpredictable. It also saved more lives than safe, conventional treatments. As reports flowed in from across council space, a pattern emerged. Every system that humans had improved was beginning to deteriorate. Equipment maintenance, trade efficiency, security operations, scientific research, medical care, SER, all declining without human involvement. Ambassador Zethkari called an emergency council session. The Great Hall was less magnificent now. With human representatives absent from their section, fellow council members, he began, we are experiencing operational difficulties across multiple sectors. Temporary adjustments, said the Merchant Guild representative. We are adapting our procedures to function without human interference. The adaptation is taking longer than expected, General Korthak reported. Security threats are increasing faster than we can respond. Dr. Veltar added her concerns. Scientific progress has slowed significantly. We may need to recruit new research species. The discussion continued for hours. Each department reported problems, but none wanted to admit that losing humans was the cause. Finally, Counselor Yethmar of the Ethereal Collective spoke up. Perhaps we should consider that humans filled a role we did not recognize. I bid by. The hall fell silent. What role? Asked Zethkari. Chaos. Yethmar said simply. In our pursuit of order and efficiency, we may have eliminated the chaos necessary for adaptation and growth. The council members considered this uncomfortable possibility. Somewhere beyond the galactic edge, human ships continued their journey into dark space. 2 years after humanity left council space, Fleet Admiral Torgotha stared at her command screen in disbelief. The readings showed impossible energy signatures emerging from dark space beyond the galactic rim. Sensor officer, confirm those readings, she ordered. Lieutenant Keshtal checked his instruments twice. Confirmed, Admiral. Multiple contacts approaching from extragalactic space. Ship configurations unknown. Energy signatures do not match any known species in the database. Admiral Torgotha felt a chill run down her spine. No species had ever successfully traveled between galaxies. The distances were too vast, the energy requirements too extreme. How many contacts? She asked. Initial count shows 47 vessels, Lieutenant Keshtal reported. Admiral. They are accelerating toward our outer defense stations. Admiral Torgotha activated the Fleet Emergency Communication System. All Council Defense Forces, this is Fleet Command. We have unknown hostiles approaching from dark space. All ships move to alert status immediately. The Council's response was swift and confident. Within 6 hours, the most powerful fleet in galactic history assembled at the Rim territories. 300 ships representing the finest military technology of 46 advanced species. Admiral Torgotha commanded from her flagship, the Dominion battlecruiser Perfection. Her tactical officers had calculated victory probabilities at over 95%. No force of 47 ships could threaten the combined might of the Council fleet. The first battle took place near the Kepler Defense Station. Admiral Torgotha watched on her tactical display as the unknown vessels approached. They moved in random patterns that defied military logic. Their formation makes no sense, reported Tactical Officer Morgek. Ships are scattered across thousands of kilometers with no coordination. They appear to be attacking individually. Primitive tactics, Admiral Torgotha concluded. All ships, engage the enemy. Target priority goes to the largest vessels. The Council fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Advanced targeting systems locked onto enemy ships and launched volleys of quantum torpedoes and plasma beams. The results should have been decisive. Instead, something impossible happened. The enemy ships dodged, not with advanced defensive systems or energy shields. They simply changed direction in ways that violated tactical predictions. Ships accelerated into turns that should have destroyed them. They flew through their own weapon fire without taking damage. Admiral, Tactical Officer Morgek said with confusion. The enemy appears to be ignoring physics. Their maneuvers are creating G-forces that should crush their crews. Admiral Torgotha watched in horror as enemy vessels attacked her ships with crude but effective weapons. The alien craft were clearly inferior in technology. Their hulls were patchwork designs. Their weapons were simple kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. but they fought like demons. Enemy vessel approaching from our port side, reported the sensor officer. It's flying directly through our defensive fire. Impossible, Admiral Torgotha said. Our targeting computers have achieved weapon locks. The ship should be destroyed. She watched as an alien vessel, half the size of her battlecruiser, flew through a barrage of quantum torpedoes by spinning and rolling in patterns that computer models said were suicidal. The ship should have been torn apart by its own maneuvers. Instead, it rammed directly into the Council destroyer Excellence, punching through its shields and hull like they were paper. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash. Admiral, communications officer, Veltar said with panic in her voice. We are receiving distress calls from across the fleet. Enemy ships are using ramming attacks. They are sacrificing themselves to destroy our vessels. Admiral Torgotha could not understand what she was seeing. Intelligent species did not throw away their lives in suicide attacks. Military tactics were based on preservation of resources and calculated risk assessment. These aliens fought with pure insanity. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Council had lost 60 ships, while destroying only 12 enemy vessels. The remaining alien ships simply vanished back into dark space, leaving no trace. Admiral Torgotha called an emergency council session from her damaged flagship. The Great Hall on Centauri Prime, filled with shocked representatives. What are we dealing with? Asked Ambassador Zethkari. I do not know, Admiral Torgotha admitted. The enemy uses tactics that our computers cannot predict. They fight with no regard for their own survival. General Korthak reviewed the battle recordings. Their ship designs are primitive. Their weapons are crude. Their technology is inferior to ours in every measurable way. Then how did they defeat us? Demanded Counselor Veltar. They did not follow any logical battle plan, Admiral Torgotha explained. Our tactical computers predicted their movements based on optimal strategies. Every prediction was wrong. Dr. Yeth Moore of the Science Directorate spoke up. Computer analysis shows the enemy fighting style has similarities to historical human combat records. The hall fell silent. What do you mean? Asked Zethkari. Dr. Yeth Moore displayed tactical data on the main screen. Human military forces used similar, unpredictable tactics. They attacked superior forces with inferior equipment. They sacrificed themselves to achieve victory. Are you suggesting these aliens are related to humans? General Korthak asked. No, Dr. Yeth Moore said. I am suggesting they think like humans. The implications were terrifying. The Council faced an enemy that could not be understood through logic and calculation. An enemy that fought with chaos and emotion instead of reason and strategy. Over the following months, the attacks continued. The aliens called themselves the Void Hunters. They struck without warning at seemingly random targets. Council fleets could never predict where they would appear next. Admiral Torgotha tried every tactical approach in the military database. Coordinated defensive formations failed when enemy ships ignored formation tactics. Overwhelming firepower failed when enemy vessels dodged through impossible maneuvers. Strategic planning failed when the enemy attacked targets that made no military sense. The Void Hunters captured a mining station that had no strategic value. They destroyed a research facility studying flower genetics. They attacked a music festival on a civilian world. Their target selection is completely random, General Korthak reported to the Council. We cannot predict where they will strike next, but Ambassador Zethkari was beginning to understand a terrible truth. He had been reviewing archived records from human military advisors. Reports that had been filed away and forgotten during humanity's Council membership. The reports told a different story than the random attacks. Humans had identified patterns in seemingly chaotic behavior. They had predicted enemy movements based on psychology rather than logic. General, Zethkari said slowly, show me the locations of all Void Hunter attacks on a galactic map. The map appeared on the main screen. Red dots marked each attack site across Council space. I see no pattern, General Korthak said. Zethkari studied the map carefully. He tried to think like a human might think. What if the attacks were not random? What if they were designed to cause maximum fear and confusion? The realization hit him like a physical blow. They are not trying to conquer territory, he whispered. They are breaking our spirit. Every attack had targeted something the Council valued. Advanced technology at the research station. Economic stability at the mining operation. Cultural identity at the music festival. The Void Hunters were not fighting a war of conquest, they were fighting a war of terror. And it was working. Across Council space, member species began withdrawing their support. Some planets recalled their fleets to defend their home systems. Others started building defensive walls instead of maintaining trade routes. The perfect unity that had defined the Council for 3,000 years was cracking under pressure from an enemy they could not understand. "We need new tactics," Admiral Torgotha admitted in defeat. "Traditional military strategy is useless against these creatures." "What kind of new tactics?" asked Zethkari, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. "Unpredictable tactics," the Admiral said reluctantly. "Emotional decision-making. Chaotic behavior." "You mean," Zethkari said quietly, "human tactics." The Council chamber erupted in uncomfortable murmurs. For 2 years, they had congratulated themselves on eliminating human chaos from their perfect civilization. Now that same chaos might be the only thing that could save them. But the humans were gone. Somewhere beyond the galaxy's edge, traveling through dark space with their dangerous emotions and unpredictable minds, the Council had made their choice. And now they would face the consequences. 5 years after Resolution 2847 passed, Ambassador Zethkari stood alone in the ruins of the Council chambers on Centauri Prime. The beautiful crystal spires lay shattered across the plaza like broken dreams. The great hall where 47 species once debated in harmony was now open to the blood-red sky. Wind howled through the empty corridors, carrying the ash of a civilization that had thought itself perfect. Zethkari activated his personal recorder for what he knew would be the final time. His 4 eyes were dim with exhaustion and regret as he began his last official report. "Council Archive, final entry," he spoke into the device. "This is Ambassador Zethkari, recording from the ruins of Centauri Prime on date cycle 1847 post-Exodus." He paused and looked around at the destruction. 3 years of warfare with the Void Hunters had reduced the galaxy's greatest city to rubble, not because the aliens were stronger, but because the Council could never learn to fight them effectively. "The Void Hunters did not conquer us," Zethkari continued. "We destroyed ourselves. When faced with an enemy we could not understand, our perfect unity crumbled into fear and panic. The truth was more painful than the physical destruction around him. The Council had possessed every advantage: superior technology, vast resources, overwhelming numbers, but they lacked the one thing that could have saved them: the ability to think like their enemy. Military casualties were surprisingly light, Zethkari recorded. The Void Hunters never attempted to hold territory or destroy our fleets completely. Their strategy was far more insidious. They broke our confidence in our own superiority. The alien invaders had attacked unpredictably for 3 years, striking at targets that made no logical sense: a farming colony here, a research station there, a trade hub when it was least defended. Council forces could never predict where they would strike next. Every battle plan failed because the humans, no, the Void Hunters, ignored tactical logic. They sacrificed ships for psychological victories. They retreated when they were winning. They attacked when retreat made more sense. The Council's perfect military machine was designed to fight rational opponents. Against enemies who fought with emotion and instinct, it was helpless. The first species to withdraw were the Ethereals. Zethkari continued his recording. They called it a tactical repositioning, but everyone knew they were abandoning the Council. The crystalline hegemony followed 2 months later. Once the panic began, it spread like a virus through the galactic community. Species that had cooperated for millennia suddenly saw enemies everywhere. Trade agreements collapsed. Research partnerships ended. Military alliances dissolved. The Merchant Guild tried to maintain commercial operations, but piracy exploded in the chaos. The Kresh pirates, emboldened by the Council's weakness, attacked shipping lanes with impunity. Other criminal organizations emerged from hiding to prey on frightened populations. Without human patrols to intercept them through intuitive policing, raiders operated freely throughout the outer territories. Dr. Veltar of the Science Directorate made a disturbing discovery in Year 4, Zethkari recorded. She found classified records that previous council leadership had hidden from us. The discovery had shattered what remained of galactic morale. Hidden deep in the council's historical archives were reports of 7 previous extragalactic invasions over the past 2 millennia. Each invasion had been quietly stopped by human military advisors before the general population even knew they were threatened. The Void Hunters were not the first chaotic enemy to threaten galactic civilization. They were simply the first to arrive after humanity left. Humans had been our immune system, Zethkari spoke quietly. They fought the battles we never knew existed. They understood enemies we could not comprehend. They protected us from threats we were too logical to recognize. The archived reports made painful reading. Incidents that had been dismissed as human paranoia were actually successful defenses against invasion attempts. Military exercises that seemed pointless had been training for asymmetric warfare. Human patrol routes that appeared random had been designed to intercept threats that logical species would never predict. For 50 years, humanity had quietly stood guard against the chaos that their civilized allies could not face. The irony is complete, Zethkari continued. We expelled humanity for being too chaotic, too emotional, too unpredictable. These were exactly the qualities that protected us from chaotic enemies. The final collapse came in Year 5. The remaining council species retreated to their home systems and sealed their borders. The great experiment in galactic cooperation ended not with war or conquest, but with fear and isolation. Some species chose extinction rather than face an uncertain future. The perfectionist collective simply turned off their life support systems rather than live in an imperfect universe. The logic assembly deleted themselves from existence when they calculated that chaos was mathematically inevitable. Others fled to distant arms of the galaxy, hoping to find refuge in empty space. A few brave species tried to adapt, studying archived human behaviors and attempting to learn unpredictable tactics, but it was too late. The damage was done. I have been monitoring deep space communications, Zethkari recorded. Human signals still reach our sensors occasionally. They speak of new worlds, impossible discoveries, and adventures that would terrify any rational species. The transmissions came from beyond the galactic edge, where no civilized species would dare to travel. Humans had not merely survived their exile. They had thrived in the chaos that destroyed their former allies. They reported discovering new forms of life in intergalactic void space. They described civilizations that existed in quantum dimensions. They told stories of battles against entities made of pure energy and negotiations with hive minds that spanned multiple universes. Everything that the Council considered impossible, humanity embraced as a new challenge. The humans never tried to contact us, Zethkari noted sadly. No offers of assistance. No attempts at reconciliation. They honored our decision completely. That was perhaps the most painful aspect of the catastrophe. Humanity could have saved the galaxy at any time. Their knowledge of asymmetric warfare could have stopped the Void Hunters in months. Their chaotic thinking could have predicted alien tactics, but they had been told they were unwanted. So they stayed away. I found a message today, Zethkari said, his voice breaking slightly. Hidden in the human embassy's abandoned files. Ambassador Vasquez left it for whoever found the ruins. He pulled up the message on his personal communicator. Elena Vasquez's face appeared on the screen, recorded 5 years ago on the day humanity left Council space. To whoever finds this recording, Elena's image said calmly, humanity bears no ill will toward the Council. You made a decision based on your values and priorities. We respect that decision. She paused and looked directly at the camera. But understand this. We were never the problem you thought we were. We were the solution to problems you didn't know existed. Zethkari watched the rest of the message with growing anguish. Elena explained how humanity had quietly protected the galaxy from dozens of threats. She listed invasions prevented, disasters averted, and chaos contained through human sacrifice and determination. All of it done without recognition or thanks. We leave you our data, our research, our tactical knowledge, Elena continued. Perhaps someday you will understand why we did what we did. Perhaps you will realize that in a universe of infinite chaos, order is not strength. Adaptation is. The message ended with Elena's final words. We hope you find peace in your perfection. But if chaos comes for you, remember that you chose logic over survival. Zethkari turned off the recording and looked around the ruined chamber one last time. Dust motes danced in the red light filtering through broken crystal. The wind carried the sound of distant explosions as the last council security forces abandoned the capital. Final log, personal addendum, he spoke into his recorder. We called them primitive, emotional, unstable. We failed to understand that in a universe of infinite darkness and chaos, these were not flaws. They were exactly what stood between us and the void. He walked slowly toward the chamber's exit, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. We thought we were casting out the troublemakers. Instead, we exiled our guardians. The silence they left behind was not empty. It was full of all the horrors they had been quietly keeping at bay. Outside the ruined building, Zethkari could see ships launching from the spaceport. The last refugees fleeing a dead civilization. Soon, Centauri Prime would be completely abandoned. The galaxy that had prided itself on order and logic was fragmenting into isolated pockets of fear. The great trade routes were empty. The research stations were dark. The colonies were fortified bunkers where once proud species cowered behind defensive barriers. The human ships never returned. Zethkari recorded as he walked toward his own transport. Why would they? The galaxy had made its choice, and humanity simply honored it. He reached his ship and began the departure sequence. As Centauri Prime fell away beneath him, Zethkari made his final entry. In the end, the Council learned the most human lesson of all. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt, and sometimes, the price of that lesson is everything you thought you couldn't live without. The ship entered hyperspace, leaving the dead world behind. In utter silence, they walked away. In utter ruin, we finally understood what we had lost. Somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, human ships continued their journey into the unknown. They had found new allies among species that embraced chaos instead of fearing it. They fought battles against entities that would drive logical minds insane. They explored realities that existed beyond the comprehension of ordered thought. They were thriving in ways the Council could never imagine, and they never looked back.